Hello, welcome back everyone to the final afternoon of the Pathways to Regeneration, Restoration, Resiliency, and Reciprocity. My name is Rachel Isaacson, and I'm a committee member of this conference and work for Community Solutions as an event coordinator. If you have found this conference inspiring and valuable, we encourage you to become a member of Community Solutions, to join our mailing list, and to receive announcements of upcoming events and conferences. Your donations will go a long way in helping us continue to do this important work. I would like to introduce my friend, Arrow Wightman. Arrow is a good friend of mine who's a naturalist that encourages harmonious relationships between humans and the ecosystem. Utilizing his skills in nature interpretation and education, he seeks to inspire the passion of future generations to use sustainable practices that protect our environment. In this workshop, Arrow will offer 6 basic skills to living and thriving in nature: shelter, fire, water, food, travel, and fun. The workshop is a video which we will play, and he will be available for questions afterwards. Please put your questions you'll have for Arrow in the chat. All right, let's start the video.
The way we respond to danger is mental, physical, and emotional. These 3 aspects support each other in a flow that tackles each problem in a survival situation piece by piece. Survival means living through dangers, threats, and adversities. I believe that there is a fundamental difference between survival and living. To survive is to look at nature as if it were not there to help you live. Instead, one should be a nature being and see the wilds as a resource, your lifeline, and your key to living in abundance. If one sees nature as the enemy, then that is who you will meet everywhere. Nature is a network and a community of other life forms. If one respects these aspects, even in an emergency, then you are already working with this community mentally, physically, and emotionally, rather than against it. That being said, nature is full of very real dangers, many of which can kill you if you are not careful. Through nature awareness and knowledge accumulated by our ancestors, we are able to find what it is to live with nature and not just survive it. So I'm here with Paul Miller. He's the owner of this land. He's graciously allowed us to come and use like the wood and stones and use the land for this video. I just wanted to ask you, what's the history of the land here? How did you come to get it?
Well, it's odd how the land came to me, because I bought the farm up the road at an auction, and the guy who owned this one wanted that one, so we arranged a trade. Yeah. So now I've got this 20 acres. Okay. Lumbar Acres Dirt Farm. Yeah. And that was almost 30 years ago. It was a working farm, but now it's mostly woods and weeds. Mm-hmm. There's a Christmas tree farm, which now has Christmas trees 50 feet tall on it, so nice. they are now timber and not Christmas trees. And lots of woods. It's an incredibly bountiful place, wild fruits and wildlife, and I try to maintain the wildlife habitat. Yeah,
that's great. And I saw that you're really managing the trails, and I'm so glad to have such a bountiful place to come and shoot this video. Thank you for sitting down and talking with us.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Yeah. Glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you. The shelter. One of the first and most common ways to die in nature is through exposure to the elements. Each season, climate, and topography has its own qualities that change a human's survival or will to live. In order to live in nature, we must find forms of shelter first. From here, we are able to rest, store food, craft tools, keep water, and discover many other comforts. Comfort is key to making the difference between survival and living. As we learn the essence of the earth element, we learn to shelter our mind, body, and emotion from discomforts. Panic from sudden discomfort is most often what leads people to die in an exposure situation. So form a shelter with all your being, and you are further prepared to do it effectively the first try. Now let's take a look at some methods passed down by our ancestors.
Turn it around. Cool. What's that for?
This is to level out the ground so that it's like a comfortable living space. So when you go to peel bark off of a tree, you want to try and like stab close to the bark, but not through it. You don't want to poke through it. You want to get kind of nice underneath it and give it nice little like rocking pushes. You just kind of go straight with it, you'll like break it off in parts and you won't get a nice long sheet. And what you're looking for is you're looking for like shingles. You know, you want to be able to layer them on top of each other, and the longer they are, the more they carry the water away. If you have a bunch of small pieces, it might work, but there's more cracks for it to get through. So long, flat pieces you can get, that'll keep the rain out, that'll keep you dry, and keep you insulated from the elements. You know, you don't want it to be cold and wet. You want to just be cold if you have to be anything. Should I get it out? Boom. So it started to rainstorm, and we're staying dry. There's a few small drips here and there, but nothing that's gonna fill up and, you know, take me away. You know, all the water is being shed off to the sides, and there's enough debris and stick litter that, you know, just kind of pushes it away. Luckily, we are kind of raised up just a bit, and also there are deep cuts in the hillside that are going to lead the water away from the camp. Yeah, and you know, in a survival situation, that's really all you need. You just need most of the water not getting you wet so that you can retain your body heat. Fire. The second most common death in the wilderness is from drinking dirty or polluted water. In the past, water would have come before fire when establishing yourself in nature. But because of the human footprint and ignorance, many streams, rivers, and lakes are no longer safe to drink without boiling the water first. So now, because of environmental changes, we must adapt the knowledge of those before us to fit our current situation. Fire element is one of purity and has many purposes in your camp. It cooks the food, cleans the water, gives the gift of ash and charcoal, which can be used to clean your body. The fire will warm you in the cold months, and it will dry you from any exposure to wetness or dampness. The smoky scent will also deter some of the insects from biting you, and it can be used to form a large array of tools that will bring greater amounts of comfort. Fire is indispensable to humankind and must be respected for its awesome power. There are many methods to fire creation, and there is much debate as to which is the most effective. The truth is, it all depends on your personal ingenuity and craftsmanship. I find the bow drill method to be the most effective for myself, as I tend to understand its mechanics the best, and the parts I must craft are simple enough to make under pressure. You go to get a stone for your fire pit, you want to make sure that it's got lots of like holes and openings like this, because if it's like one of those really smooth like river stones, it'll explode, because of the energy and heat from the fire. So you want to get something that's like porous, but hopefully not holding very much water. It's been very dry lately, so it's probably a safe rock to start using. But if it's like submerged in water, and you heat up the water inside the stone too fast as well, that could explode in your fire as well. So, important safety tips. This is the handhold. This is a spindle. This is your fireboard. And this is your bow. The bow drill, you get fire by applying downward pressure while also creating speed and friction and heat in the notch itself. So dust will accumulate within this little notch, and through downward pressure, increasing the power of the friction, it's going to ignite that dust and allow it to become a coal. Like you see in fires when they burn down, it leaves all these red coals. You're essentially making one of those, but through the dust and friction and heat of the two woods pressing up against each other. And something important to remember as well is wood density. It can't be too soft and it can't be too hard. It needs to be in that just right range. And it also needs to be dry. If it's wet, sometimes it can still work because that you're producing a lot of friction there, but you're also going to have to put forth more energy, time, and work into it. So it's good to find dry material, and the way to test is to take your thumbnail and press into it, and if you get like a little indentation, then you've got the right amount of softness. But if it really resists you and bounces back, then it's too hard. This I found kayaking one day, which was really nice. I just saw it and knew it would be perfect. Like, holds that finger, this thumb. And I just take this and put it in there, and then I'll be burning the hole with this, twisting like that. So that's this one. Works just the same with a larger one, and it's a really versatile piece. And that I just found this through paying attention, looking for what I need. You can also do it out of a piece of wood. As you see, I haven't used this one as much, but you put it in there like that, hold it like this, and work it again. I found that the stone has been a little bit smoother than wood at times, but something you can do is you can take organic alive leaf matter and shove it in there, and the oils from the nature kind of, lubes up that spinning area. Okay. It's not tight enough.
High up enough on the stuff being there to like break off the forest.
Pick up another one. And see.
Not too hot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hot?
A little bit. This could be like,
Oh, don't do that. I can't follow your hand.
it's like an arrow.
Yeah. Okay. Is that it?
Yep.
Kitty! Oh!
Water. Dehydration greatly decreases a human's performance to mentally solve problems, physically fix issues, or emotionally deal with failures. Without water, one can go very quickly into discomfort and snowball affect themselves into lots of life-threatening situations. Having drinkable water can also help you to live much longer than having eatable food. After shelter and fire are established, having a nearby water resource is very important. All life on this planet can be traced back to a relationship with water in some form or another. The paths they create, the soils they fill, the animals who come to drink, and all those who live in or on the water. The food chain is all dependent upon the flow of water. So in order to eat meals that resupply you with energy in the wild, you must become a part of this flow. If not, it is likely that you will be added to someone else's meal. Remember that all energy is not created or destroyed, it is only transformed. If you become aware of these chains of energy that connect us all, then you will be led to exactly what you need to live. This is why I stress the importance of awareness as your greatest tool to nature life. Cultivating a mental, physical, and emotional awareness will help you to flow efficiently and effectively as water itself moves through nature with grace.
How do you know when it's clay?
It's got a certain density. And it's gray, like this. It's also got a metal smell to it.
Interesting.
That's how you can tell when it's clay. You can see it.
Woo!
So when you're working your clay blob, you don't want to leave it next to the fire for too long, otherwise you'll get a lot of cracking and it'll dry too fast. But you know, while you're working it, while you're moving out those little cracks that get made and, you know, beating them, you can close up those cracks and close up that drying and hopefully help it dry faster, because this is a long process to get it dry long or fast enough so that you can use it as a water container. It'll still hold water, you know, some, you know, as a big clay shape, you know, so you can possibly get rainwater. You know, we're also going to try this experiment over here where you use grapevine and a steam pit to siphon off some water and hopefully catch it in one of these. Well, I think there's some steam coming out, which is unfortunately what we don't want. We want to have the steam trapped inside as much as possible to saturate these grapevine and hopefully direct some drinkable water into the cup. I think in the...
I see it coming out right there.
You see a little bit of steam coming out down here? Okay. Well, yeah. I think in the future what I would go for is more of a stick and clay mixture versus the stick and debris. But I think it is going to at least build up some steam, and maybe over time we'll see a little bit of a drip starting. We don't know how strong the grapevine is at saturating water, so it could be like really amazing, could be not so great. But you know, just today I went to go cut some grapevine for this project, and you know, it rained yesterday and I was able to get a lot of water just from one long chunk of grapevine. And you can set that up to drip as well. Cat time. And you gotta stay entertained out here in the woods, and having someone to take care of can really do that sometimes. Food. In a sudden survival situation, every moment you use energy from your mind, body, or emotion must be crucial to your staying alive. The energy available for your efforts becomes the most precious of resources. When you enter into this kind of situation, the most energy you will have will be at the beginning, and it will decline as you work to accomplish building your shelter, collecting and crafting your bow drill / water container, then transporting and storing water at your camp, not to mention the energy it will take once this is all done to hunt for edible flora and fauna. When utilizing the living network all around the landscape, it is important to show thanks and gratitude for the life sacrificed. The body left behind contributes to you thriving in nature's system. How you treat the life and body of nature marks, upon the land, your character.
Right in the
Travel. Eventually, in every place that you cultivate a thriving ability to live in nature, especially following a survival situation, you will deplete the resources in the area around you. Some sustainable practices could extend this time, but it is important to not harm the delicate system of nature all around you. The mountains, forests, plains, islands, and swamps all have an important flow to them that keeps the ecosystem in a thriving state. Traveling between multiple established campsites in cadence with the seasons brings about not just a thriving in nature, but a sustainable abundance. At this stage, one can choose to rejoin society or continue in an existence that relies on nature to provide. Whichever you choose, remember what it took to achieve abundance. Do not forget that you can provide for you, and that no one else is responsible including nature, for your survival.
That's more clear.
Fun. Life without fun is a constant survival. When there is no joy, it places a heavy burden of stress and work upon the efforts you make. If you face both resistance on the inside and outside, the flow of your accomplishments will fail. And these accomplishments are what you need most when facing the dangers of a constantly closing window for survival. A steady momentum of big and small accomplishments is what will measure your chances at staying alive. Breathe. When you face challenges, you do not have to do anything. Nature is not your oppressor, and you are not a victim of circumstance. You get to surrender to being human and be taught by the most ancient of teachers, yourself. Listen to yourself, listen to nature, and listen to both voices together. Treat every moment like a relationship with an esteemed host, and with respect, hash out the details of your survival. Communicate over your strategies to meet your needs. Ask to be provided for, and ask where you are able to give back in thanks for the generosity of your host. Give other life the prayer of your little joys and playful invitations. Maintain an edge to your skills and thrive with comfort. Find the fun and know that you are home when nature welcomes you to stay. And now, I would like to give a summary of these 6 elements and their relationship to survival. First, you work on getting together your shelter and insulate yourself from the elements. And then you work on going to the creek beds to get your stone tools. You try and knock off a few flakes, find one that works really well. Keep your ones that don't work well, because once your good one starts to break down, it's nice to have backups. So in the beginning, you just need to get a lot of different stone tools, or stone blades, And then you're going to go and use those stone blades to chop down a green sapling, and you're going to use every part of that sapling. You're going to use its bark, you're going to use its wood, the bark, you're going to strip off, and you're going to go put in a pond or in some kind of wet area. You know, maybe it's just the dew collected in a crevice in, you know, the hillside, but you want to soften them up. And then you go through a process of pulling them apart, getting to the very fibers of it, and you make cordage. And then once you have cordage, you can start using your stone tools to try and craft yourself a bow drill so that you can get fire. And once you have fire, then a lot more things become open in the camp for you. Especially if you can get to a place where there's clay. Like if you have like a wet area and you can dig down and get clay, the sooner that's drying out, the sooner you have containers for water. And water is such a key and crucial component of surviving. Normally you would just try and set up near a stream or a river that, you know, has some clean drinkable water, but we don't really have that anymore. And we also, you know, it's kind of a hit or miss with trying to drink water from any kind of natural water source. Yeah, so it's best to get your fire made, be able to boil your water, and continue from there. When it comes to food, you will make your traps, your figure 4 traps, and you'll set those out on the landscape on some different runs. These are natural depressions and clearings in the, you know, forest and leaf litter. Never want to put your trap really like on a trail. You kind of want it to be off to the side of it. And never want to leave your scent on the trail leading to the trap. So you always want to try and circle around from some difficult path to set your trap that a animal wouldn't normally use. And you don't have to expect anything super soon off of this, but you know, hopefully, you know, within, you know, a day or 2 days, you might catch some food in one of your traps that you've set up all over. You know, so the more traps you can make, the better. And by your 4th or 6th trap, you'll definitely have it down. It's a delicate and intricate process. And when you get your food, you can set it on a spit, like the one that, you know, I've shown in the video, and you can smoke it, or you can, you know, cook it straight with the fire. Smoking and dehydrating the meat can help you to have that food for when you decide to move to another area, because eventually I'm going to use up all the resources in this area. That in order to protect myself next year, I have to move camp to another space and do all of this over again. But I can also carry some things with me from this camp in order to make establishing my camp at the next spot much easier. Some of that being carrying food that I can eat on the journey, and as well as you know, water that I can carry with me, hopefully made from the skin of some animals that were a bit larger. Traveling to different places and seeing different things can add to also the enjoyment of your camp making. That each place is going to have a very unique soul, a very unique feel to it, and that's a very beautiful and entertaining thing. You know, it's enjoyable to see yourself reflected in the art of living in nature. You can look at every stick that you put up and remember, you can, you know, remember each stroke of the, you know, stone, the knife, and get a sense for what it is to take care of every one of your needs. and see how Earth and nature are there to also provide for those needs. Granted, you have the right knowledge, the right wisdom to be able to follow through and not have a ton of waste, but not everything in nature is perfect, and sometimes you gotta keep trying and keep trying in order to really perfect the techniques so that you can be better next time, and that those that come after you can be better next time. And entertainment comes at different times and different places. It's something that you're always going toward, as long as each and every one of the other steps has been given enough attention throughout the day. But it may creep up in a moment where you are getting frustrated and you need to let up some steam. Just taking a time out of the stress of survival can really bring about joy in each moment. And I remember with everything that I accomplish, I get a little bit more inspired to do things. You know, just seeing it being in the progress of being done.
Yeah, that's great.
That was such an awesome video, Arrow. You really went all out to show us what's up in the woods. I'm gonna go ahead and put spotlight on you so we can start asking you some questions. If you have any questions for Arrow, feel free to put them in the chat and I will read them off to him.
Thank you,
Can I
Rachel.
start off? Sorry.
Just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Do you mind if I start out with the first question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you talk about like how you came to learn all of this awesome wisdom?
Yeah, so when I was 18 and graduating high school, I thought to myself, I don't really enjoy the money system, and I wanted to know how to live off the land if that was even an option to be doing that. And so I went to a survival school instead of going to college right away. And then I went to Tom Brown's tracker school in New Jersey, and I spent, quite a bit of my college funds on going there. And the knowledge I learned from there was indispensable. It has helped me and defined me in so many ways. And I really recommend Tom Brown's books. Those have also been a big help for me over the years in learning bushcraft. So.
Could you write out some of those books in the chat?
Yeah, people? Yeah. Should I do it now or like after questions?
Either way is fine.
Okay.
How long did you spend training and like learning?
Well, I went to my first class when I was 18, and then I kept at it going to the school for 10 years, at least once every year. The classes range as like 7 days in the woods with teachers and like training, like, and you get to like work with a teacher like right there, like showing you how to do the skill. And then I've gone on a bunch of like camping trips by myself, just me and nature, putting the skills to the test and seeing if they work for me. And a lot of the ones that they shared with me do work. And there's definitely a learning curve. You can't just go out into nature and be like, I'm going to do this first try right away with no practice. That doesn't work. So you gotta practice first and get good at it. get confident in it, and then you'll find success.
Do you know a little bit about Tom Brown Jr.'s like backstory, like how he became the teacher he is?
Yeah, he started very young in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. He had a Native American teacher who lived his own way. He lived off the land. He didn't need support from society to manage his needs. And he shared all of those teachings with Tom and his friend Rick. And over the years of studying, he wanted to honor his teacher by opening up a school that brought all of those teachings out to the public so that they weren't so hidden and secretive anymore. He thought people really need this, so he went into sharing it, and he has a big history of helping police force with tracking cases, helping find lost and missing people,
Wow.
and he also would find criminals sometimes. Like he'd be asked to go on like a little hunting kind of thing for people that are doing bad stuff in the woods. So.
So Celia Diamond asked, how do you prepare animal skins as water carriers?
So there's a process called brain tanning where you take the brains of the animal and you well, first you skin it. So first you start at the anus of whatever the creature is, and you cut up it and you try and peel it off and get the organs out. And you take that skin and you have to stretch it. And the brains of the animal are actually a great lubricant to keep it from tearing as it's in the stretching process. And so you do this process of smearing on the brains and then scraping away like little bits of the skin, and that kind of helps like spread it out. And you would create a spreader box or a square using your cordage and sticks that are around you. So you would make your cordage, put like holes through the skin and near the edges, and then you would tighten those strings, each day, and then lubricate it, and you would get a skin that you can like fold up into a water container, and you would like take cordage and sew the top of it, and you can sew it and like pull it closed, and it would be like just like a little water bag essentially.
Right. And then Emily is asking, is there a good resource for learning which native plants and fruits are edible?
Yes, I really recommend Peterson's Field Guide to Wild Edible Plants. I went recently to college at Hocking College and in Ohio. It's in Athens, and it's a really great college. And they have a wild edibles course there, and that's the book that they recommended. And I used it with my teacher, and I lived in the woods for the last like 4 to 5 months of my going to school there. And I was able to find tons of mushrooms and edible, plants to just kind of help sustain me while I was in the woods there. And so I really recommend that one. And then there's also, I have this one here with me. It's it comes out backwards on there, but it's a Newcomb's Wildflower Guide, and there's a lot of edible flowers out there as well, that you may not think about. And it helps you identify them. And you always want to, when you go to do edible plants in the woods, you always want to cross-reference. You don't want to just rely on one book and one image of the plant in order to, eat it. Like you want to reference it to multiple books and check them and be like, okay, both these books look very similar with this plant that I'm looking at, and then you can try it.
Are you planning on becoming a teacher as well? Like just kind of moving forward? Because I think you're a great teacher, I just want to say.
Thank you. Yeah, I really do plan on moving forward with this. This has been a career choice that I've been trying to move into for a while in my life. And that it's also what I'm most passionate about. I think that with a lot of the changes occurring in the world, both in the ecosystem, but also in human economy, like that nature skills and having a second option other than relying on the monetary system is very important. You know, to have the confidence that, you know, you could just go out into an area that seems to have some abundance and, you know, you could just be like surviving, you know, but not just surviving, you know, thriving, you know, because that's always the goal. It's never to just survive nature, it's to enjoy yourself in nature.
Yeah, I just want to say I really appreciate how much fun that you made that look, and I'm sure that you had real fun. I appreciate you like showing your kitties too. That was really cute.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. They're really good friends out there, uh, and the good thing about cats is they kind of know how to take care of themselves. So they'll go out and hunt when they need to. They'll come for pets when they want it. So they're a nice friend in the woods. And you can also look at you know, the animals' senses as well. Like, you know, where does your cat go to find water? You know, you could just like spend a little while like following your cats around or your dog around and learn so much about the forest that way.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when you mentioned that if the water is not good enough for bugs, it's probably not good enough for you in that moment. And I was
Yeah,
thinking about that with the cats.
right, right. And that's really one of the things that I want to stress most as a teacher of wilderness survival is that the ability to survive in nature really begins in your awareness. It's not about, you know, how perfect you do a certain skill. It's really about how well can you exercise your awareness to find the right tools, find the right um, uh, material for your tasks that you're trying to accomplish. Um, you know, so you know, training here first is very crucial in the survival, in your odds of survival.
All right, we got about 5 minutes left of questions. Denny has asked, what are the essential basic tools? It seems like a knife is essential.
Yes, having a cutting edge is very essential. It was kind of hard to see in the video because it was a little glitchy, but the very first thing I showed was going to like a creek bed where you find rocks, and you take a circular or spherical stone, and then you find one that's kind of got some jagged edges on it, and you just knock off a flake, and it's actually very easy to do. And you know, you can keep doing it, you know, just keep doing it for like 5 minutes and you'll find all these different edges that you can use, and that it granted the process is longer than a knife is definitely an essential tool. If you could be in a survival situation with a knife, then you're like really set forward. But you can just like knock flakes off of a rock and use that as your cutting tool.
And someone asked, that clay pot you made seems pretty thick. Can you actually boil water in something like that?
You can. I have seen it done. We didn't have very much time on the land there, so the clay pot that we made, we're going to try and burn it the next time we're there and kiln fire it and see if it survives. But it is one of the main processes for cleaning your water is to find some clay, put it through a kiln fire, put water in it, and set it on a bed of coals, and it will boil the water. And if you made your cup good enough, and I recommend making multiple cups when you enter a survival situation, because not all of them may survive the kiln fire. Some of them might blow up, and that's just the nature of the process. So, make a bunch of them, and hopefully you get one that stays true, and you can set it on your fire. But also another really powerful thing about clay is that one of these I have made. I made it during one of my classes at the tracker school, is a clay filter. And what you do is you don't like glaze it with anything. You just have a clay like spiral almost. It's like a cup with like a hole on the bottom, and then you put striations along it, and it channels the water through the clay, and then it will like filter it. So you just like put water in the top of it, and it'll just drip filtered water. And you can put charcoal in there to help in that process. There's this like layering system for using sediment and charcoal and ash to like clean water. So that's another thing, maybe to look forward to in the future, that I might be able to post out and teach about.
Yes. And then Gary Victor just asked, where would you suggest a person begin to learn survival techniques?
Well, if you don't have the kind of money to go to a class, or the time, I really recommend Tom Brown's books. He has a long line of different books on primitive living, and then like he'll take you from like the basics and then like lead you up through advanced skills, and you can always reach out to me. I'm trying to get into teaching this more regularly. I do recommend that school, but there are many resources out there for learning survival techniques. A lot of videos online. There's tons of people that just post like videos of them in a survival situation, and them just accomplishing task after task after task. So.
All right, I think we're going to wrap up. I just want to say that if you found this presentation useful, and if you're like Gary and you're interested in trying to learn some of these survival techniques, Arrow will be offering workshops at Agraria, our Center for Regenerative Practice, over the next year. We're not sure if it's going to be in person or virtual. Again, this depends on the pandemic, but it's looking like it's going to be virtual. And that's where he's going to be teaching each of these skills independently. So this presentation was just kind of like putting it all kind of get all the basics all there. But if you want a more in-depth about each thing, just stay tuned and visit our website. We'll be posting when those will be for the next year. All right. And so thank you so much, Arrow, for joining us once again. And I'm looking forward to you being able to continue to teach with us. It seems like I thought this would happen. I thought a lot of people would be interested in this. I know I am. I'm sitting here just like, teach me your ways.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Before you head off, just please put any kind of information and resources into the chat, any of Tom Brown's books, how to get them. Also, someone is asking for you to put your contact information in the chat box as well.
I'll do that as well.
Okay, so up next after the break, we'll have Gabby Loomis-Amrine presenting about avian and human foodways at 2:45. All right, we'll see you after the break. Thanks again.